Hello, 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 everybody. This is the fourth episode of the Power to the People podcast, aka P2P. This is Josiah Cannon, and I am here with Ayinde Olukotun today. Ayinde and I were both in the Green Scholars Program together with Miss Deborah, and honestly, like seeing him over the past several years, he's been doing amazing things. Right now, he's at Pomona College, and he's here to talk with us a little bit about his projects and everything. So, hi, Ayende. Uh,
Hi, Josiah. Thank you so much for the fabulous introduction. I feel the exact same way. I feel so grateful to have been able to learn with you and grow with you over these how many years in the Green Scholars Program? It's been a long time. It's been a
mhm,
while,
mhm.
but I've been so grateful to be able to grow with you in that way. And thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Of course, of course. Yeah, so I've heard a little bit about your project. The kind of the vaguest little piece like I know is that it's basically more of like an essay style and like an article style. Could you like uh expand a little bit on that? Like what's it about?
Exactly. So I think my project has it's kind of a dual parted project because a lot of my project was research. Because what I was really wanting to address kind of practically and theoretically was really looking at how the GOP is systemically disenfranchising Black voters, particularly in the South. But a lot of my research is about the methods they use to do that, whether that's people, kind of what of those are more kind of institutional issues with people, not being able to take off, like, time off from work for voting to, with Brian Kemp, very these kind of political moves, like taking people off the voter rolls when they shouldn't be taken off, reducing the number of polling sites in specifically, Black dominated areas. And so a lot of my project, because to adequately address something, you have to understand it first. So a lot of this has been, I think I'm up to 20 pages now, actually, but really just compiling a lot of research and a lot of data about the ways that this has been such a concerted effort by the GOP post 2008 and post 2012 to reduce the power of the Black electorate in this country. And the second part of it is kind of manifested in a couple different ways, because obviously the most kind of egregious disenfranchisement of Black people that's been going on is um, in the South. But being from California, I don't really have the means to make kind of as many practical changes there as I could, being a college student. So the kind of in between place I found was I had actually been working for Anna Eshu this past summer. Um, and she was actually working on introducing federal legislation, HR1, which is unfortunately was blocked by the filibuster. But what I'm doing now is my research, but also research for the office of Anna Eshu. One of the things that she suggested that we talked about that was actually in the HR1 legislation was making election day a federal holiday, and just kind of working with her and talking about what kind of federal and institutional changes can we make so there are fewer barriers to entry, nationally when these Republican legislatures are trying to play dirty. And then the other element of that is kind of just manifested in some, I guess, less, I don't know, formal ways, just with the recent recall of
Mhm,
Gavin Newsom. I mean,
mhm,
the reality is our our governors, our leaders, have the power to be, making laws that affect us as Black people. So just, making sure that people are getting out and voting in their own cities, in their own towns, in their own states, even in states like California, where there aren't as many barriers to entry for Black people. And just kind of doing that and getting out in my community and promote it and making sure people are staying engaged electorally. So that's really where my project is now.
Wow. I mean, there's a lot to unpack with all of that. I honestly don't even know where to start first, but I mean, first of all, that's incredibly exceptional already. Like everything you've done so far, like 20 pages. That's insane. And remind me of the name of the person that you're working with right now.
Congresswoman Anna Eshoo.
Mm, already
And she
working with
actually was
Congress.
someone who that was something that started, so organically. It really didn't. It really did not expect to be working with her at all. But not this summer, but last summer, I organized a Black Lives Matter protest in Palo Alto, and we were looking for speakers to come speak, and we were thinking, okay, this is such a long shot, especially because this was during the height of COVID, and as public officials, they have to be careful about their appearance and maintaining COVID
Of
safety.
course.
But you said, let's just reach out because she is our congresswoman, our representative. Um, and she said yes, and she came and delivered an amazing speech about the importance of legislation and about electoral engagement, because that is one of the ways you can really change things in this country. And after her team was reaching out to me to work on her reelection campaign, which of course I reached out on, and I said, hey, this last summer, I'm seeing if I can find a way to really put my research into action. Is it okay if I do this research, on behalf of your office and really work for you as you're striving to devise national legislation on voting laws and protecting the voting rights of people, particularly Black people in this country? And she said, of course. And that's what I was doing over the summer. And I'm sorry, I'm not able to do it. I feel bad because I'm not able to do it as much right now because, I'm sure college, it's a lot. Especially I'm doing track and field as well, and middle of midterms. I actually just got out of my Chinese midterm, 10 minutes. I was jogging home. I was like, oof, I need to get on this call. But yeah, that's what I've been doing, and that's how that started. A really, really great politician who really, really cares about the community and about Black people specifically, and isn't afraid to say that. So she's great.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's super cool to how that started. Yeah. First of all, fantastic. That's great that you organize your own protest. That's amazing. And also that you're already working with like people who are in Congress. That's incredible. And I know that like with most people's projects, it's kind of something that isn't really like just something that's like written down. But with yours, I know that already have so much like faith and promise that it's going to be amazing because I know how Miss Deborah has complimented your writing, and so yeah, I'm really excited to be reading that when it's available. Do you know when you think it'll be finished, or is it just all the thoughts are just flowing right now and you don't want to stop? Like,
Oh no, I think it's definitely I'm hoping to. I mean, obviously, it's definitely going to be done by the time for the final presentation. But I was really hoping if I could have this done by by finals week, kind of late November, early December, so I can really get to drafting and editing it, so that there's a really polished, finished product that can help people. By the time January, we're presenting this to people. That would be great. That would be my ideal timeline.
yeah, definitely. That's fantastic. Yeah. Shoot. I think there was something else that I was going to ask you before I led on to my next question. Um, but just for the sake of time, I'll go ahead and ask that right now. So this week of action's goal is to help dismantle the school to prison pipeline through community action. How can your project relate to this and the theme of community, not cops? Oh.
So I remember this was actually late in high school. I actually did um, a kind of miniature project on the school to prison pipeline and looking at the disparities, between white students and Black students in terms of school pushout and the disproportionate way that Black kids are systemically kind of expelled and suspended from school and undereducated and non-educated. That's not a real phrase in this country. And I remember one of the studies I read said that the biggest predictor of whether a child is going to end up in prison is if they already have a parent in prison. And what has the capacity to impact that when you're talking about sentencing disparities, when you're talking about the state of the judiciary, when you're talking about over-policing in Black areas, when you're talking about, reallocating funds from policing to community support, to mental health services, to social services, so that it never gets to the point of incarceration. That's legislation. That's federal, that's state legislation. And so for that to happen, you need people to be empowered to vote. You need people to be able to go out and make and contribute to those federal changes so that we don't have the conditions that make the school to prison pipeline as bad as it is. And that's why I think all of these things are so interconnected, especially when you're talking about voting and legislation and the school to prison pipeline.
Yeah, and definitely. And it's thinking about the prison pipeline is always like really interesting, but also scary. Because I remember like when I was younger, like elementary school, middle, early high school, or mostly with elementary school, I would get detentions and stuff all the time. So just thinking about like when I started learning about like the prison, like preschool to prison pipeline and stuff, it made me think like how many of those things could have been handled differently when it came to like
Absolutely.
getting in trouble.
There is, I remember my mom told me about this. I'm pulling this up. This is a Yale study. You can look it up. There's an article about it. It's by Bill Hathaway, and it's called Track the Eyes. Which students are teachers watching? They put students into a classroom, right? These students, no behavioral issues, none. And they said one of these students or some of these students are problem children. They have issues. And what they did was they tracked the eye movements of the teachers unbeknownst to them. And Black boys were 42% of who the teachers were watching.
Wow.
It is so ingrained into our education system in this country that Black kids, especially Black boys, are vilified and suspended and face academic kind of punishments and adversity in this country. It's really bad. It's really bad, and it's documented. It's documented in academic journals. This isn't just people saying, "Oh, this isn't circumstantial." There are real academic studies about how people like you are pigeonholed and people like me are pigeonholed
Yeah.
in education systems, and it's really sad and it's really scary.
Yeah, I just pulled that up too as you mentioned it, and yeah, you're spot on. That's
Exactly.
actually
I mean, it is so systemic. That's why I get so infuriated when we're talking about affirmative action. Black people are systemically discriminated against in education. It has never been a level playing field. And people want to talk about it's not fair. What's not fair? That's not fair. Black girls, what was it, being suspended or expelled at 7 times the rate of their white counterparts. That's not fair.
Yes.
But anyways, sorry, I'm on a tangent now.
No, you're speaking all facts right now. I honestly, if I didn't have to head over to the next interview, I definitely would have loved to continue this conversation even further. But yeah, that about sums up this episode. So thank you so much for tuning in. Ayende, do you want to plug any of your social medias or emails if anyone wants to reach out to you about accessing your project when it's done, and where is it going to
Absolutely.
be? Like,
Just email me at ayindebolukotun@gmail.com. That's AYINDEBOLUKOTUN@gmail.com. I'm gonna come, November, December, and definitely if you want to tune into the final presentations, please do that. And I will absolutely send over that paper. Because the more you know, it really is the more you know.
for sure. Yeah, and I'm excited to read it as well. But thank you
Thank you so
so
much.
much, Ayinde,
Thank
for
you so much for
joining me.
having me, Josiah. This was
Yeah.
great. This was great talking to you.
Everything you said really just like resonated with me, and I'm very, like I said, I'm so excited to see what's to come. So yeah, all right, I'm gonna stop the recording now. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great weekend. Wait, yep, Friday. Check. Have a great weekend. I'll see you.
All right.